All right. Good morning, YouTube. We are back at it live for a Monday morning. Thank goodness it's not Monday. For a first Monday back. It'll be Monday for the chat, I guess. Trying to get the kinks back out again. So welcome back, folks. Hope you're doing good. We're going to try to get through some stuff without getting bogged down. I started looking at the news and I started the thing. So we'll try to stay with the high level stuff and not get distracted too much. But how's everybody doing? Glad you all could. Well, is there anybody here yet? I guess is the question. Let me go over to find it. I'm not even on the right article I wanted to start with. Let's get over here. All right. Hey, good morning, Walker. How's it going out there in Indiana? Is it officially springtime there? I think it's springtime. Tactical Tony was in here for a minute at the beginning, it looks like. Good morning. I didn't even browse by the weather. The weather's great out here. I haven't seen any major storms coming out anywhere. You guys get out there back east? Morning, Walter. How's it going? So to start off with, this is from yesterday evening, last night, looks like. So we just borrowed more for the first quarter than we ever have before. How much fun does that sound? People want to talk about all the things that America has to be worried about, but they never worry about the debt. I mean, sure thing to kill this country is debt more than anything else. So informational article here, 488 billion, and even more concerning. Oh, I guess it was just slightly less than 2008. So correction, it's not the most we ever borrowed in the first quarter. It was the third quarter of 2008. We borrowed 569 billion. Yeah, why not just do that again? Sounds like a good idea. But it was the most for the first quarter, I think and that was the third quarter then, or fourth. But anyway, we're spending money like nobody's business. This is out of Bloomberg. And even more concerning is we're borrowing money at the highest rates we've done in a while, which means we're borrowing more money and paying more for it. How does that make any sense? The banks got us in a pickle. The banks have us over a barrel, etc., etc. So they're looking for faster inflation, higher rates. This is an article out of CNBC. No better way to kill an economy than that. But it's a good time if you're a banker. Money-making time for them. AM Long, what's going on? Good morning. We're not gonna pay it back because we can't. It's literally physically impossible to pay back the debt. I don't think anybody that looks at the debt subjectively cannot legitimately think we're ever gonna be able to pay that back, ever, because of the interest behind it and the compounding interest, having to borrow money at interest to pay off the debt. To match those, to beat that, it's playing in a tailspin. So they sent out a survey too for people to take. We'll skip over that issue. Information, go on down. Everybody was given their outlooks and whatnot. Rates up to around 3.24%, based on the survey, though. That's quite a bit considering where we were last year. So it goes on down, has all the economic forecasts, but the biggest thing I wanted to point out was the interest rate issue matched up with the debt issue. When you're paying more for debt, you're definitely going downhill fast. We can't, nobody can afford it, a little less us. So again, those links are in the description box below. Yeah, I think we know the answer to that question, Walker. And speaking of, where does all the money go that we borrow? Why do we borrow so much? And looking around for past subject we've talked about, looking up the South Africa situation to see where that stands, but the U.S. is threatening to cut funding to South Africa. We provided $459 million to South Africa in 2016. $459 million of money of dollars that we don't have. We just made up. How does that make any sense? But they were threatening to cut that. I was wanting to see if it was based on their issues. Oh, we're not cutting it because they're slaughtering their own people, which we basically bombed Syria for, but we're cutting it because they didn't want to recognize Jerusalem, just because we wanted to force them to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. That's why we're cutting their funding. Why don't we find something a little more important? That's interesting. That's the way you play political games. Tell somebody you're going to cut off their aid. Meanwhile, as they intimidate farmers in the countryside, interesting how we pick and choose who we decide to bomb for what reasons. Lots going on. Lots went on since the last time I had one of these chats, huh? I want to play catch up, but I know I don't have time to do it. So I guess that there were 10 countries we were worried about voting against that resolution. Here's a good quote right here. But now, as part of Trump administration's America First policy, let that sink in, America First policy, which prioritizes the interest of U.S. sovereignty, right? The government is seeking to donate to countries that give it an acceptable return on its investment. Oh my goodness. How can you have an America First policy and worry about interest of U.S. sovereignty if you're donating to other countries as an investment? Somebody put all that sentence together and figure out how that makes sense to you. That's a whole lot of big mess right there that doesn't put two and two together, if you ask me. You can't do all those three words. Yeah. Maybe it's just too early in the morning. I'll drink some more coffee. Maybe it'll come around to me. The American people pay 22% of the UN budget. and we house the building and everything else. I don't think they include that as a part of that budget. So South Africa is in the list of the top 10 countries least likely to vote with the U.S. No, well, kind of surprising, but I guess that's been a change over the years. But they're lumped in there with Iran, Syria, Venezuela, Bolivia, all the communist countries. But again, how providing they're one of the countries least likely. We're still giving them $400 million a year. How much sense does that make? Insanity, and we wonder why we're borrowing at a record rate. Hey, good morning, Ford Forest. How you doing? Thanks for joining us. Good morning, Carolina. How are you? Well, oh, Walter, I'm drinking the wrong type of coffee. I got to get the Irish cream Irish coffee going, right? Okay, gotcha. I knew I was missing something. It'll start making sense then, right? Okay, I've figured it out. So now that I know that I need to remix my coffee, I'm going to have to move over to the next article. But all this debt and fake bank money and everything with never ending inflation and interest led me over to this article. It's out of Zero Hedge. Dial T for tyranny. How do you not like that headline? So this came out of the Rutherford Institute is where they get the gist of this article. It's from yesterday. While America feuds, the police state shifts into high gear, indeed. And I've also supposed for a long time that the further in debt and the worse the economy gets, the more the police state has to grow to protect those interests. They are conversely related. Is that the right word? They're not inversely. Is it conversely? They're aligned. They grow together. Or they are inverse if you consider a bad economy going down and police state going up. Whichever. Irrelevant. But lead statement here. What characterizes American government today is not so much dysfunctional politics as it is ruthlessly contrived governance carried out behind the entertaining, distracting, and disingenuous curtain of political theater. And what political theater it is, diabolically Shakespearean at times, full of sound and fury, yet in the end signifying nothing. So it goes through all the here in the distractions of the media and all the stuff that hits the front lines, the front headlines and whatnot. Each a script, as he says, never gives any relief from the constant melodrama. Good point. The way the media builds everything up to like a action movie sometimes. And here's another key statement. None of the dangers posed by the government and its henchmen have dissipated. They've merely disappeared from the televised news stream. So there you go. The media doesn't cover it, as I think most of us know. Hey, good morning, Tommy boy. What's going on? How's things in the Southeast. It says a police state is characterized by bureaucracy, secrecy, perpetual wars, a nation of suspects, militarization, surveillance, widespread police presence, and a citizenry with little recourse against police actions. Yes, we are very much down that rabbit trail right there. It's just a matter of increasing in that. It's going down the alphabet here. Okay, I'm not going to go all the way through Z on this. It's in an article. It's in the links below, but basically they're getting to the point of how the police state. B is for our battered Bill of Rights. C is for civil asset forfeiture. D is for drones. E is for electronic concentration camp, the surveillance state. F is for fusion centers. It just goes on down, pointing out everything that is part of the tyranny of the police state. So that'd be a good article to check out if you're so inclined, and to get your, I don't know, points to share with other people, not to get your blood boiling, not necessarily anything you may not know about the growing police state, but that one family member that is kind of on the fence, that doesn't really see the big picture, but is trying to figure it out. There's a good A to Z rundown of the situation. It's even got a court case for you, M. Long. K is for Kentucky versus King, a Supreme Court ruling that gives police, and I clicked that too early. It was waiting. So that'd be something to look up. My page is lagging. Well, but yeah, check that out. It might give you some good key phrases to use on people to drop hints on them on the nature of our current situation, such as it is. And speaking of the tyranny, this also had a Zero Hedge. Just a rundown of an article on how the credit card companies are looking to monitor gun purchases and restrict them in many ways. And we've kind of touched on a couple of these articles here and there as they came out after the Florida incident. But this kind of summarizes them together. Especially, it looks like it's leading with a Wall Street Journal article from yesterday. Hey, Billy Bird Outdoors, good morning. Welcome to the chat. I'm trying to get back in the saddle. I'm trying not to cover everything I saw this morning, because we've been on a loop for so long. I feel like I need to cover everything, but we're trying to press forward. But remember, links are in the description box below for most of these articles for you to check out. So it talks about how banks and credit cards considered blocking consumer gun purchases. As it says here, corporate America engaged in marathon virtue signaling session to prove that they care about the lives of students being endangered by gun violence. So banks could have quietly withdrawn the restrictions once the pure public fear quieted down. Some banks and credit card companies are now considering a more permanent move that would transform them into foot soldiers in the deep state's push to create a register of all gun owners, as we talked about in the previous article on tyranny. So as the Wall Street Journal reported yesterday, Some lenders are now discussing ways to identify purchases of guns through their payment systems. This would effectively transform them into tools of the intelligence services by monitoring virtually all gun sales at sporting goods stores and other merchants that aren't transacted in cash. Right. So as explained in the Wall Street Journal, card networks, Visa and MasterCard like companies, can request approval for what's called a merchant category code, a protocol that's governed by a Switzerland-based nonprofit. The code can be applied to gun merchants so that banks can flag new gun purchases using their credit cards. Interesting. Just trying to find any angle they can to prepare the the kill list, I guess is what we would call it. So as it says, currently card companies don't have any visibility really on gun purchases. They want to see how far reaching these new code identifiers would go. At least one large U.S. bank has early conversations with lawmakers about potential legislation to require merchants to share information about specific gun-related products. Products, not firearms. Products could be what, ammo, all on the list. Imagine what that is. Gun-related products consumers are buying with their cards, according to people familiar with the matter. And we started this whole thing off about how much debt the U.S. is in. Who owns the debt? The banks. So how much sway does the banks have on Capitol Hill? Put all that together. See where that story's going. This is me rubbing my head as it hurts trying to put all this together. It's not good, folks. It doesn't look good at all. This is probably the most important article, putting all this stuff together. So one of the bank holdouts that we've seen through much of this is Wells Fargo. And here a quote from Wells Fargo's CEO. We don't think it's a good idea for banks to decide what products and services Americans can buy. It should not be up to me, to us, to decide that. It should be up to folks following the laws and folks making decisions. So Wells Fargo has been the holdout as they are the credit card. What do they have some interaction with the NRA, but they've held out on any, and I think a couple of gun manufacturers as well. They're the bank for those. They lend to those companies. The American Federation of Teachers announced it would cut ties with Wells Fargo over the bank's relationship with the NRA, as well as several gun manufacturers. Yeah, exactly. I'd rather be associated with the NRA than the Teachers Association, I'll tell you that much. All this walking out business, we hadn't even touched on that stuff. That's one of those things I haven't paid attention to because I don't care, because there are a bunch of overpaid crybabies in my consideration, but that's just me. So there's another article to check out, folks. We're down to the last 10 minutes. Let's see what's going on out here. Hey, Walker, you got a short link article. Homeland Security kills suspect. Is that out of D.C. or is that something local? Good morning, Food Forest. What's up? The banksters indeed. Hey, Alicia, good morning. How's things out there? Yeah, you stepped in it right at the right time. We're talking about the teachers. uh, I'm just we'll open new account without your permission. Is that right, Barry? They've been having problems. I actually just had a little sidebar incident with him as well. The strange transaction, I guess you'd say, with them, but it all worked out in the end. I don't know that I have a account in my name without my permission, but I guess it's possible. Is that not the right link? I got the link up here on the screen, Walker. I think this is it. So it's from today. This is San Antonio. Makes you wonder why we have Homeland Security officials in all these cities. It's not. It's almost like we have a overbearing police state. Oh wait, were we just talking about that? Really short. They haven't got full details here, obviously. I don't know what led up to the confrontation. Well, maybe the confrontation is that federalized police are patrolling the streets of America. This is live. This is a live stream with no audio. Awesome. They're just taking a picture of the back of this car. So yeah, this is so almost guaranteed the Homeland Security officer. This is probably it's in a neighborhood. So they were either conducting a surveillance in the neighborhood of somebody on the watch list, or they were assisting, as they would like to say, the local police in the apprehension of somebody, maybe ICE, somebody like that. I mean, Homeland Security could be anybody from the FBI, all these other organizations, because they're all a big umbrella now. But there's no audio on this, so I can't. They're not even talking about it. Takes all the flack and has to do all the henchman work for them. So I guess we'll get more of that. Thanks, Walker. All right, I think I got one more story here to pull. And it's out of the AP having to do with we followed that immigrant, the whole caravan deal from Honduras and Nicaragua from the beginning. Oh wait, now I get sound. Sounds like the flag is going. They changed the angle to get the car moved, so he's talking over there. Anyway, AP article over here about the caravan and people coming through the San Ysidro port was reported yesterday, and there was a lot of video and pictures yesterday of the people from the caravan scaling the wall down by the ocean down there in San Diego and whatnot. And then supporters on the U.S. cheering them on and whatnot. But they kept restating that they were going to do it the legal way and seek asylum. So this is what this article is about. They're bringing some of the asylum seekers into the country for processing. Again, about 8 today, and 140 are still waiting in Mexico to turn themselves in at the border crossing. So asylum seekers are typically held up to 3 days at the border and turned over to ICE. If they pass initial screenings, they may be detained or released with ankle monitors while their cases wind through immigration court. Nearly 80% of asylum pass initial screening from October through December. fewer likely to win asylum. The denial rate for El Salvadorians seeking asylum was 79% from 2012 to 2017. Honduras was close behind with a 78% denial rate, followed by Guatemala at 75%. So that's a story about kind of that situation, and then the asylum seekers. So my hypothesis in this whole thing, and it's been done annually for quite some time, but this was a large one, this caravan idea. It's a cloud pivot strategy. It's you use the resources of the country against itself. You make the country try to live up to its own ideals, and collapse it from over just, it just collapses from its own, just like the debt and everything else. All this it'll be the same. This is just one little, it's not the big picture, it's not the one thing, but it's just all repetitive events like this continue to burden the country and just cause it to collapse at some point. I think that's what that's a part of. So this guy is talking over here on this Homeland Security. I guess they were on a stakeout, he just said, the reporter. So the guy they were staking out came out, crossed the road, and he's talking about what happened, what he got from the cops at least. So yeah, I guess he shot. They're saying first, of course, they're going to say he shot at them, and then they returned fire and took him down. That's their statement, at least. But again, DHS is out. Sounds like DHS was out there alone without local jurisdiction. So the federalized police state. So when you have all these foreign agents come into your state, your communities, and shoot people, you got nobody to go protest. When local police do it, you got somebody to go protest and hold accountable. When the feds come in to do it, nobody hardly blinks an eye. It's just like, well, can't do anything about that. Well, folks, we're about out of time here. You all have a good day. We'll talk to you later. We're going to punch out. I think I might be lagging here at the end, it looks like. But thanks for joining us. We'll get you back hopefully tomorrow. Have a good day. Live free.